Good morning, Year 7. Good afternoon, Year 7. Welcome to week 5 of Coraline. Hope you are enjoying it. I am too. I've seen some fantastic work. Well done. You are doing fabulously. Keep up the good work. We've got 2 weeks left till half term. You're all in a routine, so well done. If your habits have slipped a little bit, pull your socks up a bit. Sure they haven't, but get that nice workspace where it's nice and quiet. If you're in school, well done. Keep concentrating, and don't forget to hand in your work. We've had great increases in the number of work that's been attached to the assignments. That's brilliant, so make sure your teacher can give you some feedback. Well done. If you're watching this and you've had a live lesson as well, well done. Hope Mrs. Payman has been great in those live lessons. If you haven't had a live lesson with Mrs. Payman yet, never know, you might do soon. Okay, so just a little recap then. Last lesson, we looked at the mirrors in fairy tales and all those different fairy tales where we have mirrors, and we've got one in Coraline as well. And we read chapter 5. So what we're going to do this week, we are going to continue reading and have a little bit of a look at chapter 6. We're going to have a look at heroes in fairy tales and our hero Coraline. We're going to have a look at Coraline's journey. You looked a little bit at heroes' journeys in term 1 with your myths. And then we're going to look at, later on this week, the other mother and how she starts to change. Hence my picture on the screen. Okay. So here's your title. Nice and neatly underlined. Most of you are doing that, I've seen. A few of you need to dig out your ruler. How does Gaiman present Coraline as a fairy tale hero? Okay, pause the video, sorry, and write that neatly with the date. Right, so cast your mind back. What heroes have we already read about in Year 7? There are 2 we're going to look at in particular. I know you have looked at in your unit before Christmas. Who are they? There are some pictures coming up to remind you. One of them I know you will know. One of them you might just need to scratch your head and think about the name. There's one. There's the other. Okay, I want you to write down the names of those heroes. If you can't remember them, they're coming up in 3, 2, 1. Perseus. Remember Perseus? And of course, Harry Potter. Right, there are 3 things I want you to try and remember about those heroes on their journey. Okay? I want you to try and think about where's their starting point on their journey. You might struggle a little bit with Perseus, that's okay. Should know Harry Potter's. What is their journey? Where do they go on their journey? What's the location? And what is their big heroic act? Okay, so just pause the video. You just need to bullet point the little short answers. Where's their starting point? Where do they go on their journey? And what is their heroic act? Pause the video and do that for each of those fairy tale heroes. Okay, who have we got then? Perseus. Starting point. In his original world, at a party, he didn't take a gift, so he had to go get a gift. The gift was rather gruesome. Okay. His journey, he had to go into the Gorgon's cave to find Medusa. And what was his heroic act? It's there in the picture. He had to cut off Medusa's head with all the snakes without looking at it, if you remember. If you can remember what happens when you look at it, turn to stone. Absolutely. Right, Harry Potter then. Where was his starting point? I had the address. You might have had a room in the house. 4 Privet Drive at the Dudleys. He may have had the cupboard under the stairs. Okay. Where was his journey then? Where does he go? Of course, Hogwarts School. There are lots of other small journeys, of course, within each story, but the main big journey is to Hogwarts School. And what's his heroic act? Of course, defeating Lord Voldemort. Okay, so my talking cat has appeared. Let's move on and look at our hero. Okay, so Coraline, our hero so far. I want you to think about these next questions so far. And I want you to write some short answers in your book, thinking about Coraline's journey as a hero so far. They're just short questions, they're not paragraphs. So your first question for Coraline, I want you to think, where does her journey start? At the start of the story. Where does she start? Where does the story start? What is her call to action? What makes Coraline start going on her hero's journey? Who is the helper or mentor that she meets? What is the threshold that she crosses? And then what foe, or if you want to call them an enemy, does she meet? Okay, so you can pause the video here, and I want just a sentence, that's all you need for each of those 5 questions, just so we understand Coraline's heroic journey so far. Off you go. Okay, so let's have a look and see what we got. Where does Coraline's journey start? In her ordinary world of her home, on a dull day. It was raining, if you remember. She didn't want to go outside and even start playing. What's her call to action? What rouses her up into action? Her parents mysteriously go missing. Who's a helper or mentor that she meets? The talking cat, of course. What is the threshold that she crosses? The blocked door to the other world? And what foe or enemy does she meet? Her other mother. And I've put in father. I've not really talked about her other father yet. We're not quite sure about him yet. Is he as bad as the other mother? We will find out. Right, so chapter 6 begins the morning after the night Coraline has spent in the house with her other parents. Her other mother had locked the portal door so she couldn't escape from the other world and go back to reality. Chapter 6. Coraline was woken by the mid-morning sun full on her face. For a moment she felt utterly dislocated. She did not know where she was. She was not entirely sure who she was. It is astonishing just how much of what we are can be tied to the beds we wake up in the morning, and it is astonishing how fragile that can be. Sometimes Coraline would forget who she was while she was daydreaming that she was exploring the Arctic or the Amazon rainforest or the darkest Africa, and it was not until someone tapped her on the shoulder or said her name that Coraline would come back from 1,000,000 miles away with a start, and all in a fraction of a second have to remember who she was and what her name was, and that she was even there at all. Now there was sun on her face, and she was Coraline Jones. Yes. And then the green and pinkness of the room she was in, and the rustling of a large painted paper butterfly as it fluttered and beat its way about the ceiling, told her where she had woken up. She climbed out of the bed. She could not wear her pyjamas, dressing gown and slippers during the day, she decided, even if it meant wearing the other Coraline's clothes. Was there another Coraline? No, she decided, there wasn't. There was just her. There were no proper clothes in the cupboard, though. They were more like dressing up clothes, or, she thought, the kind of clothes she would love to have hanging in her own wardrobe at home. There was a raggedy witch costume, a patched scarecrow costume, A future warrior costume with little digital lights on it that glittered and blinked, a slinky evening dress all covered in feathers and mirrors. Finally, in a drawer, she found a pair of black jeans that seemed to be made of velvet night, and a grey sweater the colour of thick smoke, with faint and tiny stars in the fabric which twinkled. She pulled on the jeans and the sweater. Then she put on a pair of bright orange boots she found at the bottom of the cupboard. She took a last apple out of the pocket of her dressing gown, and then from the same pocket the stone with the hole in it. She put the stone into the pocket of her jeans, and it was as if her head had cleared a little, as if she'd come out of some sort of a fog. She went into the kitchen, but it was deserted. Still, she was sure that there was someone in the flat. She walked down the hall until she reached her father's study and discovered that it was occupied. "Where's the other mother?" she asked the other father. He was sitting in the study at a desk which looked just like her father's, but he was not doing anything at all, not even reading gardening catalogues as her own father did when he was only pretending to be working. "Out," he told her. "Fixing the doors. There are some vermin problems." He seemed pleased to have someone to talk to. "The rats, you mean?" "No, the rats are our friends. This is the other kind, big black fellow with his tail high." "The cat, you mean?" "That's the one," said her other father. He looked less like her true father today. There was something slightly vague about his face, like bread dough that had begun to rise, smoothing out the bumps and cracks and depressions. "Really, I mustn't talk to you when she's not here," he said. "But don't you worry, she won't be gone often. I shall demonstrate our tender hospitality to you, such that you will not even think about ever going back." He closed his mouth and folded his hands in his laps. "So what am I to do now?" asked Coraline. The other father pointed to his lips. Silence. "Well, if you won't even talk to me," said Coraline, "I am going exploring." "No point," said the other father. "There isn't anywhere but here." This is all she made. The house, the grounds, and the people in the house. She made it, and she waited. Then he looked embarrassed, and he put one finger to his lips again, as if he had just said too much. Coraline walked out of his study. She went into the drawing room, over to the old door, and she pulled it, rattled, and shook it. No, it was locked fast, and the other mother had the key. She looked around the room. It was so familiar, that was what made it feel so truly strange. Everything was exactly the same as she remembered. There was all her grandmother's strange smelling furniture. There was a painting of the bowl of fruit, a bunch of grapes, 2 plums, a peach and an apple, hanging on the wall. There was the low wooden table with a lion's feet, and the empty fireplace which seemed to suck heat from the room. But there was something else, something she did not remember seeing before. A ball of glass up on the mantelpiece. She went over to the fireplace, went up on tiptoes and lifted it down. It was a snow globe with 2 little people in it. Coraline shook it and set the snow flying, white snow that glittered as it tumbled through the water. Then she put the snow globe back on the mantelpiece and carried on looking for her true parents and for a way out. She went out of the flat, past the flashing lights door, behind which the other Mrs. Spink and Forcible performed their show forever, and set off into the woods. Where Coraline came from, once you were through the patch of trees, you saw nothing but the meadow and the old tennis courts. In this place, the woods went on further, the trees becoming cruder and less tree-like the further you went. Pretty soon, they seemed very approximate, like the idea of trees, a greyish, brown trunk below a greenish splodge of something that might have been leaves above. Coraline wondered if the other mother wasn't interested in trees, or if she just hadn't bothered with this bit properly because nobody was expected to come out this far. She kept walking, and then the mist began. It was not damp like a normal fog or mist. It was not cold, and it was not warm. It felt to Coraline like she was walking into nothing. "I'm an explorer," thought Coraline to herself, and I need all the ways out of here that I can get, so I shall keep walking. The world she was walking through was a pale nothingness, like a blank sheet of paper or an enormous white empty room. It had no temperature, no smell, no texture, and no taste. It certainly isn't mist, thought Coraline, although she did not know what it was. For a moment she wondered if she might have gone blind. But no, she could see herself plain as day. There was no ground beneath her feet, just a misty, milky whiteness. "And what do you think you're doing?" said a shape to one side of her. It took a few moments for her eyes to focus on it properly. She thought it might be some kind of lion at first, some distance away from her, and then she thought it might be a mouse close beside her, and then she knew what it was. "I'm exploring," Coraline told the cat. Its fur stood straight out from its body, and its eyes were wide, while its tail was down and between its legs. It did not look a happy cat. "Bad place," said the cat. "If you want to call it a place, which I don't, what are you doing here?" "I'm exploring." "Nothing to find here," said the cat. "This is just the outside, the part of the place she hasn't bothered to create." "She?" "The one who says she's your other mother," said the cat. "What is she?" asked Coraline. The cat did not answer, just padded through the pale mist beside Coraline. Something began to appear in front of them, something high and towering and dark. "You were wrong," she told the cat. "There is something there." And then it took shape in the mist, a dark house, which loomed at them out of the formless whiteness. "But that," said Coraline. "The house you just left," agreed the cat. "Precisely." "Maybe I just turned around in the mist," said Coraline. The cat curled the high tip of its tail into a question mark and tipped its head onto one side. "You might have done," it said. "I certainly would not." "Wrong indeed. But how can you walk away from something and still come back to it?" "Easy," said the cat. "Think of somebody walking around the world. You start out walking away from something and end up coming back to it." "Small world," said Coraline. "It's big enough for her," said the cat. "Spiders' webs only have to be large enough to catch flies." Coraline shivered. "He said that she's fixing all the gates and the doors," she told the cat, "to keep you out." "She may try," said the cat, unimpressed. "Oh, yes, she may try." They were standing under a clump of trees now beside the house. These trees looked much more likely. "There's ways in and ways out of places like this that even she doesn't know about." "Did she make this place then?" asked Coraline. "Made it? Found it? What's the difference?" asked the cat. "Either way, she's had it a very long time. Hang on." It gave a shiver and a leap. Before Coraline could blink, the cat was sitting with its paw holding down a big black rat. "It's not that I like rats at the best of times," said the cat conversationally as if nothing had happened, "but the rats in this place are all spies for her. She uses them as her eyes and hands." And with that the cat let the rat go. It ran for almost a metre, and then the cat with one bound was upon it, batting it hard with one sharp clawed paw while holding it down with the other. "I love this bit," said the cat happily. "Want to see me do that again?" "No," said Coraline. "Why do you do it? You're torturing it." Said the cat. It let the rat go. The rat stumbled, dazed, for a few steps. Then it began to run. With a blow of its paw, the cat knocked the rat into the air and caught it in its mouth. "Stop it," said Coraline. The cat dropped the rat between its two front paws. "There are those," it said with a sigh, in tones as smooth as oiled silk, "who have suggested that the tendency of a cat to play with its prey is a merciful one. After all, it permits the occasional funny little running snack to escape from time to time. How often does your dinner get to escape?" And then it picked up the rat in its mouth and carried it off into the woods behind a tree. Coraline walked back into the house. Okay, so key vocabulary. I want you in your exercise book to write down the word perilous. There are a few images on the board. on the screen rather, to give you a little clue what the word perilous means. You might already have heard of it. You may have heard of the word peril. So I want us to write down two definitions. Peril is a noun. It names something. Okay, so we're writing this down in our exercise book. Pause the video whenever you need to, remember year 7, to work at your own pace. That's the joy of working with a video. You can pause Mrs. Sunderland. Okay, what does peril mean? It means serious and imminent danger. It's not just danger, it means danger that is going to happen at any moment, and serious danger, life-threatening danger. Okay, so if that's peril, what is perilous? It's not a noun. What type of word do you think it is? Coming up in 3, 2, 1. It's an adjective. Well done if you got that. So what might it mean then? If it's an adjective, if it describes something, it's something that is full of risk and danger. Okay, so pause the video to make sure you've got those definitions down, and then you've got a short little task. Okay, I want you to write 2 sentences, and I want you to include the adjective perilous. They don't have to be about Coraline, they can be about anything you want. So 2 sentences that include the adjective perilous. So you've got to describe something that is perilous, and something that is perilous is something that is full of danger and risk. Okay, so pause the video and then I will bring up 2 of my sentences that I've written, and you can see if you've used perilous in the right way, year 7. Okay, so pause the video and do that short little task now. Okay, so here are my 2 sentences. I wrote, walking along a cliff edge is perilous because you might fall off, especially if a strong gust of wind comes along or a wave. And I had my journey to school in the snow and ice was perilous. That could be because you might slip. That might be because someone's throwing lots of snowballs at you. Okay, so just so we make sure we understand what the word perilous means before we move on. Okay. Okay, so we're going to look now at Coraline's journey, and we're going to see how Coraline's journey was perilous. That's why we needed to understand what the word means. And we have a short extract on the screen from what we've just read in chapter 6. If you want to, you can pause the video and read that again. But what I have also done on the screen is I've pulled out 3 quotations that I want us to look at in particular. So we have, and then the mist began. We've got, she was walking into nothing. And we've got, certainly isn't mist, thought Coraline. Okay, so pause the video if you want to read that short extract, but you don't have to. And then we're going to look at those quotations in close detail. Right, what I would now like you to do, year 7, is I'd like you to write down that short quotation, and I'm going to bring up a question that I want you to answer about it to try and help you to understand how it makes Coraline's journey perilous. So you're going to write that quotation down. You can do this just on one line in your book. You're not going to do a quote explosion around it, so you don't need any space above it. So just write that one quotation down, it's only short. And then your question is, if the mist began, what else does it tell us? So I want you to think about, it doesn't just say it was misty. The writer says the mist began. So if the mist began, what else does it tell us? How does this make Coraline's journey perilous? Now, if you want to answer that question now without any help, you can pause the video here. But if you want a little bit of help with starting your answer, there's a little bit of help, not from Victor my cat, but coming up on the screen in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so you could start your answer with, the mist makes Coraline's journey perilous because, and you could start with, by telling us the mist began, the writer makes me think. So I want you to think about that word began. If it began, what does it make you think? Okay, so we're going to go into the next question and we're going to check your answers after we've done all three. Okay, so the next quotation I want you to write down. And leave a little bit of space if you want for when we go through the answers, because you might want to do a little bit of dit. So she was walking into nothing. That's your next quotation I want you to write down. And the question that goes with that quotation is, how is Coraline's journey perilous if she is walking into nothing? Because you'd think if there was nothing, then, well, she's not in danger. So I want you to think, if there's nothing there, how can that be dangerous? If you don't want any help, you can pause the video now. If you want a little bit of help, that's coming up in 3, 2, 1. Okay, if Coraline is walking into nothing, this might suggest, and nothing can be dangerous because. Okay, so pause the video now to help you write that question, the answer. Okay, well done Year 7. So let's have a look at our last quotation. It certainly isn't mist, thought Coraline. Okay, and our last question is, how does this make the reader think Coraline is in peril on her journey? So I want you to think, if she's saying it's not mist, then how is that making us think she's in peril? I've not used perilous now, I said peril, so if she's in danger. She's not saying what it is, she's saying what it isn't. She's saying it certainly isn't mist, thought Coraline. She doesn't say what it is. That's a little clue for you. How does this make us think Coraline is in peril? If you don't want any help, you can start your answer now. If you want a little bit of help, that's coming up in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so when Coraline realises it isn't mist, it makes us think she's in peril or danger because. Okay, you could also put, it doesn't tell us what it is because. Okay, well done Year 7. So pause the video now if you need to finish your answer to those questions, and we're going to have a look at some possible answers on the next screen. Okay, Year 7, so what answers could you have possibly put? Don't worry if yours are different to mine, of course they're going to be, but you can see what sort of ideas you've put, and this is really important why you upload your work to Teams. So your teacher can give you some feedback on your work and, most importantly, see the fabulous work that you are doing. Okay, so the first question about the mist began. I wrote, the mist makes Coraline's journey perilous because it hides things which might hurt or be dangerous to Coraline. By telling us the mist began, the writer makes me think it's just the beginning and things are going to get worse. So if you want to have a look at what you wrote, see if you've got anything similar or different to mine. See if you want to just adjust your answer. See what your friend wrote. Ask, WhatsApp them. What did you write for and then the mist began? Maybe not. Okay, the second question. What about she was walking into nothing? How can nothing be dangerous? So if Coraline is walking into nothing, this might suggest she's completely alone on her journey. It makes us feel her journey is perilous she has no one around to help her. Okay, so nothing can be dangerous because she's got no support, no one there to help her. There's a talking cat there, isn't there? But I think it's too busy eating rats. Right, so the last one then. It certainly isn't mist, thought Coraline. How does this make us think that she's in peril on her journey? I wrote, when Coraline realises it isn't mist, it makes us think she's in peril or danger because it sounds supernatural. I thought it sounded like it's something that's obviously a little bit magical or supernatural. You might not have got that. You might have got something different or something scary. It makes us question what it is and what harm it might bring to Coraline. But it also makes Coraline sound very brave for carrying on her journey. I think quite a few of us might just want to turn around and run at this point. But Coraline doesn't. That's all the thing about hero, that even when it gets tough, they carry on their journey and they follow through with their mission. Okay, so we don't know what it is. It makes us wonder what harm it's going to bring to her. It's mysterious, but it also makes her seem very brave because she's carrying on with her mission. Okay, so you might just pause the video at this point and check what you've written, Year 7. Well done. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. We'll carry on with chapter 6 next lesson and see what happens to the other mother. Well done, Year 7. Good luck for the rest of the week.